Hi everyone, I'm Allie Buchman and I am going to show you a video today using RounDuo beads. This video was actually a design by Danielle Walker, and she had asked a while ago showed it to me a while ago and actually asked to do a video, and I had completely kind of put it on the back burner, not on purpose, just because we got busy. So I am doing this design using the round duos, which really shows off the round duos really well. And in her original design, she went with the Swarovski crystals down the sides, but to change it up a little bit from Danielle's, and because we have them, I used the Potomac rondelles down the sides of the bracelet. Also, in her video, she used 8 OC beads down the middle. I switched it up and used 3mm beads. So material-wise for this bracelet, and it's called the RounDuo Tennis Bracelet, I'm going to be using wildfire beading thread, and I used 0.006 wildfire in a blue color since I did blue tones. With that crystal graphite, it really plays off the blue really well. And I have my slip and snip scissors here to cut my thread. And I also have a needle nose pliers bent so that way I can flatten out my thread once I cut. Once I have my thread, I need 2 needles, and we're going with 2 size 10 English beading needles. The Lance brand is the one that we carry now. They changed their packaging a little bit, and now it's actually Lance Pony is what the company is. But I also have some super new glue sitting by handy. Bead-wise, I'm going to be working with 2 colors of 11-0s. I'm working with the light sapphire AB crystal, and then I'm working with the silver-lined matte capri blue. For the Potomac crystal, I'm working with the aqua color. And then for my 3mm beads, which I switched from the 8 OC beads, I'm using the 3mm metallic turquoise beads just to give it a little bit more bling and make it a little bit shinier. I think it really shows off then that blue that pops out of the RounDuo beads. In addition, I have a cup button that I used for my clasp, and other than that, I'm working on a bead mat, and I am getting ready to go. You may also want to have a ruler handy. That helps just in case you have to lay everything out. For my project, I'm going to be using 50 RounDuo beads, and then I also used 50 of my PC rondelles as well. So to start out with Danielle's design, what I've done is laid out my beads, and again I'm doing it a little bit blingier. So I'm just going to put a couple of my 11-0 seed beads out, which I did not have out, and I'm going to get ready to add my cup button. In Danielle's video, she did use a wire protector and clasp, so if you would like to follow her video and her pattern, you can definitely check that out as well. I'm going to put 3 seed beads on my needle and drop it down to the middle of my thread. I've started out by taking 2 needles and adding them to 1 piece of beading thread that's about 5 feet long. Longer than you need, but that way you have a little bit extra in case you want to reinforce, in case you want to bling it out a little bit more. I'll also give you a plan to do that if you'd like to take it one step further. So I'm going to make sure my tails are about the same size, and I'm working with these 2 needles. I'm going to go in and add 3 seed beads on my right needle and just let them drop down. I'm then going to pick up my cup button in that zinc iris color and have that go face down and drop down 1 through each needle there, down to the bottom of my thread. Those blue zircon beads then, that fun silver lined matte capri, is going to decorate the end of that cup button. What I'm going to do then is add 3 more 11-0s on each needle, 3 on the left and 3 on the right, and let those drop down next to the cup button as well. Now again, I'm kind of making it a little bit more blingy. So in Danielle's design, she did 8 OC beads. I've opted to go a little bit bigger and a little bit flashier, and I went with 3mm in the metallic turquoise color. So what I'm going to do to get started is the same thing that she did here, where she put on 1 bead and crossed her needles, 1 going from right to left and 1 going from left to right. I'm going to pull that down next to my cup button and next to my clasp. And that's just going to sit just like that. Now what we're going to do is a technique that I do often, and it is crisscrossing and doing a right angle weave pattern with 2 needles. If you know right angle weave, you can continue on doing it with 1 needle. And for this project, either way really, you could go with 1 needle or 2 needle. I'm going to continue with 2, just like the original video. We're going to go with a 3mm on the right needle, 3mm on the left needle. And then to get that right angle weave effect, those 4 beads in a little box, we're going to crisscross through a 4th bead. I'm going to then pull that thread down on either side here. And then it's going to take that little box effect. So you can see those beads hanging out there. We're going to do this one more time, just like the original. Going with 1 on the right, 1 on the left. And then another 1 on the right and cross through with the left. So if you were doing right angle weave, you'd just be circling around right now. And that gets that second little formation in. Now what we're going to do is start to add our RounDuo beads in. So instead of using my 3mm on the side, from now on I'm going to use my crystal graphite RounDuo beads. So I'm always going to take my right needle, put 1 on, my left needle, put 1 on, and then crisscross through my 3mm bead. I'm going to continue with this same pattern of crisscrossing the whole length of my bracelet. That's going to put the RounDuos on the side here and that 3mm in the middle. Again, I'm going to pick up a RounDuo on my right needle and a RounDuo on the left needle. Pick up another 3mm bead, maybe, and cross through that as well. That's going to get me that same box effect. I'm going to continue that box effect, or that right angle weave effect, the whole length of my bracelet. So you're going to go in that whole length, continuing adding the RounDuos on the side through 1 hole, crisscrossing through that 3mm, and then continue up, crisscrossing and adding on. And I usually like to show you guys some cheats. So on my right needle, I've put a bunch of the pattern of RounDuo 3, RounDuo 3, going the whole length here. And what I'm going to do now is pick up my left needle, put on a RounDuo, crisscross through that 3, pull the thread through, pick up another RounDuo, crisscross through the next 3. So this is getting me the same effect that I have, but this way I only have to work with 1 needle at a time. If this confuses you, just keep on with the pattern that you have going with picking up. But this is going to get that pattern a lot faster. And then what you're doing is just picking up the threads, giving a nice tight pull, and that'll get that pattern tightened up for you. You're going to continue with this pattern the whole length of your wrist. Keep in mind what kind of clasp you want to add, because the clasp will add a little bit of length. I usually say the clasp is going to add a little bit more than 1/4 to 1/2 of an inch when you're working with it. So keep that in mind. I'm using my cup button. So the cup button is going to give you an indicator how exactly the length is going to be. This bracelet also is not really going to shrink up at all. Some bracelets, when you work with them and you're going back multiple layers and multiple times through beads, it will shrink up. This is not one of those bracelets, so the length is going to be pretty true to form. So you want to do this about 6.5 to 7 inches. For a bigger wrist, do it a little bit longer, but you're going to create that RounDuo line of the tennis bracelet in that same fashion. So I ended up getting to the end of my RounDuo section, and what I did was mimicked the design from the beginning, adding 2 rows of that right angle weave with just the 3mm beads, not including the RounDuo beads. And I have that all finished off. I ended up using 50 of the RounDuo beads in order to get my length. So that's going to be right about just under a 7-inch bracelet for 50 beads, just to give you an idea of how many you need. What I'm going to do now is make my loop for my cup button. I'm coming out of the last bead here, crisscrossing through, and I think I'm going to do it in my silver lined matte capri blue. And what I'm going to do is pick up about 26 of my 11/0 seed beads on my needle. I'm doing this with my right needle. You could do it with your left first, it doesn't matter. And I want the loop to be large enough that it's going to fit around the cup button. Again, if you do want to see how to put on a toggle or a metal clasp, you can check out Danielle's design, and that would be able to show you how to put on the wire protectors, which you would be just doing in the same fashion but skipping the beads. Once I have enough on for my cup button, I'm going to go back through my last 3mm bead and create that loop. And that loop's going to fit right inside my cup button there. What I'm going to do now is go through and reinforce with the other thread that's coming out that's not through the beads. So the beads are through with this thread here. This thread that's on the left, I'm going to go through and reinforce all the beads and get it back into the same location. So I'm done reinforcing my loop, and I've gone back through so that way my thread is coming out of my 3mm bead, and it would be coming out on either side of my bead. I jumped ahead a little bit on the one side so I could show you, but I'm going to show you on the second side exactly what we're doing now as our next step. So I'm coming out of my 3mm bead, and I've put out little piles of my beads, and then I moved my bead mat by accident and made the piles a little bit kind of chaotic. But I'm going to go through the next 3mm bead going towards the cup button. Once I'm on the side here, I'm going to add in an 11/0 seed bead and go up to the next 3mm on the side. Again now an 11/0. And I'm going to go through the first RounDuo bead through the outer hole of the RounDuo bead. I'm adding that in my darker blue color. Once I'm through that RounDuo, add another 11/0 bead, and we're going to sew through the second RounDuo. Once we're on the side here, we're going to add our fringe, which our fringe or our embellishment, the reason I went ahead is to show you guys how it kind of stacks one on top of the other. It's a little bit exaggerated with this stack because I'm using the rondelles, which stick out a little bit further and have a little bit different shape, versus Danielle's with the bicone beads that's going to sit a little bit tighter, but it still has a pretty crossover embellishment going to it. So once you're through and you have on 11 and then your RounDuo, 11 RounDuo, we're going to put on our pattern, which my pattern is going to be a lighter, darker Potomac crystal, darker, lighter 11/0. I'm going to let that drop down next to my project, and then I'm going to go back to the first RounDuo bead, and I'm going to sew through the RounDuo, the 11/0, and the RounDuo bead. I'm always going to be sewing through in that order, and that's how I'm going to decorate the sides. And that just sits kind of right on the side. When I get here to my next RounDuo bead, I'm going to add my darker 11 and sew through the second hole of the next RounDuo bead. What I'm going to do now is, this kind of reminds me of a flat spiral on the side. I'm going to go in and add my little crystal edging. So I'm going to add light, dark crystal, dark, light. I'm going to then go back to the previous RounDuo, so one back, sew back through the second hole of the RounDuo, sew through the 11/0 that we added, and then the current RounDuo that we're coming out of. I want to make sure this goes on top of the last, so that way I have that sitting on the side. I'm going to continue on with that same pattern, adding an 11 in my darker color and sewing through to the next RounDuo bead. Once I'm out that, I'm going to add my 5 beads here on the side in my pattern of light 11, dark 11, Potomac rondelle. Go back to the RounDuo previous to the one that you're coming out of. Grab that outer hole, the 11-0, and the RounDuo. So always sewing back through 2 RounDuos and an 11-0. Gonna give a pull and make sure that it's sitting on top of the last crystal. And you can see the other side kind of taking shape now as well, because I jumped ahead just so you could see that laying over pattern here on the side. And I'm going to continue going up and down, or up both sides, right and left, adding this same little crystal edging. So I'm here at the end and I've gone down the whole line, adding my little crystal lining there. And I'm going to be showing you how to kind of reinforce your clasp. I have my last grouping of my crystal on the side there. And I'm going to come back through the second hole of that RounDuo, the 11-0 that was just put on, and back through that second hole of that RounDuo that we're coming out of. Making sure that it's going above, and making sure when you're doing both sides too that you're mirroring both sides, and both sides are going above and one's not going below. When I get to the end here, I'm going to add an 11-0 down through my 3mm, 11-0 down through the next 3mm. I'm going to cross through the other 3mm that's there and reinforce my clasp, going through my seed beads, my cup button, my seed beads at the top of my cup button, down the cup button and the beads on the other side, and then back through that 3mm again. Oops. Once I'm there, I'm going to get my bead or my needle back down to this starting point here. Unfortunately, I ran out of thread on the one side. Fortunately, the other one was a little bit off. So what I'm going to do is actually go down the side here and connect back to the other thread. So I'm adding those 11-0s in place up the side. And once I get here to where I'm meeting, I'm going to simply tie off. So I have the 11-0 there to mirror the other side. I'm going to take my needles off and I'm going to tie knots. When you work with 2 threads, it's kind of nice because you don't have to weave back through. You have an easy area to tie off, to tie the 2 threads together. I'm going to tie a 3rd knot here, do a little square knot. Once I'm done tying my knot, I'm going to take my super new glue, do a little dab on that knot, let that dry a little bit. You can take your thread burner or your cutters here, just cut off that extra thread. And then it is all completed. So we have this awesome RounDuo Tennis Bracelet that Danielle created, and it gives you kind of a lot of ideas for different things to work with the RounDuos. Again, you can bring them up, you can set them down, you can come back through and crisscross, but it really shows off the RounDuos rather nicely, and then added with that extra little bling that I did, made it an even shinier bracelet. When it's on the wrist here, it's going to shine and shimmer like crazy with those beads that are on. So thanks a lot for watching, everyone, and thanks a lot, people, for playing around with the RounDuos, making designs like this one that I can feature on our YouTube channel, and continue playing around, having fun. If you need to get any of the supplies for this bracelet, you can look down at the show more, and that'll give you links to this, to the products that are used here in the video to purchase online. If you would prefer, you can also shop at our Potomac Bead Company locations. You go to PotomacBeads.com, check out our locations page, and you can check out the different classes that are at the different stores, the different store locations. You never know when you might be near one, so check those out. We'd love to see you and help you and give you new ideas and get you materials for all of these different products. Also, if you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, you'll get regular updates on videos like this, as well as product updates and info and videos galore that we try to send you to do fun ideas and designs like this, as well as the other YouTube designs and little examples that we've done as well. So as always, thanks a lot for watching, everybody, and have fun and happy beading working with the fun round duos.